Welcome to We Are Not Here to Tick a Box with David Kane and Debbie Hayes. Episode 20, Connecting with Self, Part 2. And as Debbie was talking, and it's why we've done a second part to this, Michelle Obama came into my head straight away. That brilliant quote from Michelle Obama that said, "When they aim, when they go low, we go high." And that just came straight into my head. And actually, Yaz and the plastic population did as well. Unbelievable. The only way is up. The only way is up.
Where's up?
And I think this is quite an interesting way to take this conversation on, because we talked about the importance of connecting with self, and we talked about and hinted at our own we've had moments where we've come to a crossroad, we've come to that watershed moment. And I think that, I don't know about you.
We've been taken out the knees, I think, as well. That's,
Yeah. And, I think for me, one thing that I think we've all got to do in those situations is, and you mentioned this, not be too hard on yourself. We always say everybody's imperfect. Everybody's going to have these times where life just isn't going the way that you want it to go. Sometimes, and people, sometimes it's not your fault. I think in every situation there's something that you yourself need to take an element of responsibility for. But it can only get better. It can only get better. And by finding the messages, I mean, you mentioned as well words like things happen for reasons. As long as you're willing to receive the right messages and appreciate the fact that the only way is up. The only way is up. Aim high again. Take these learnings that you now get in whatever they may be, and turn it into something that is brilliant. And we can all do that. So I thought it was really interesting that we carried that on as we go into this as we go into this second episode. And of course, I'm very mindful of the fact I cut you off because we come to the end of our slot, which Mum said that was quite rude, but no, remember, it's all about cup of teas, cup of coffees, and Kit Kats. That's what it's all about. Back to you. What's your thought? I mean, that Michelle Obama quote and your own journey. Does that resonate with you?
It does, absolutely. And something that when I was in my absolute darkest hours and I was recovering from an abusive relationship, and I got to a point where I thought I'd processed stuff. I thought, okay, I'm on top of it. And then suddenly, whoa, the tsunami of stuff would just come back again. And that felt like, oh God, I thought I'd dealt with all this, and then woof, it just came back in great big waves.
What type of things were in what type of things were in the waves? What were some of those things that were coming back?
Sometimes it was through circumstance, or just the sense of don't get me wrong, if Lassie's on, I am the tearful person. I've got that empathy and I'm fully in there. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm not a particularly emotional, tearful person. I'm normally a very stable and calm person. But I was in this place where I literally had hours, afternoons, days where I was just so overtaken by emotion. I was just in floods of tears. And obviously I was trying to sort of keep it together a bit for my son, so not to keep, concern him. But one day I just could not contain that. And he came home and he just saw me and he just gave me the biggest hug. And he was just like, Mum, he said, remember, the greater the suffering, the greater the peace.
How old was he?
He was 13 at the time. And I was absolutely blown away. And I was speechless, to be honest, because I was like, wow. And then later on, I said to him, Sam, where did you get that from? And he goes, well, it's a line I remember that was in a film, Mum. He goes, and it sort of resonated with me. And he goes, if you think back to say like what happened at Auschwitz, he said, because that happened, he said, hopefully we will never in history repeat something like that. And you just think, wow, do you know what I mean? So I think when you're able to sort of then reflect on that, go, okay, you're in this place of suffering, you know, and it feels like that, but then actually what sense of peace can come after that? And for me, it gave me a sense of, okay, if I've been given this experience, you know, I'm a bit of a believer of you given what you can handle. So if you're given what you can handle, and I'm going through it, and I'm in these depths, and actually, if I've got this far, then I can come out of it, because I've probably gone through the worst of it. I'm just processing, and then it is then being able to take all that you've experienced and then impart that knowledge to others, because that's where the greater peace comes, isn't it? Because you've then taken that suffering, but you can impart that knowledge and wisdom to other people, so that the peace isn't just for yourself, it's a peace that then you can share beyond your own experience, isn't it? And I know that a lot of the insights that I gained from that, I've been able to share with many people on many levels, and some of those insights you can tell just really sort of hit people's hearts, and you know that that's really sort of helping them to again find their own peace with the situation, because it gives them a level of understanding that then allows them to move through it and to move beyond some of that suffering that they're going through or have experienced but maybe not yet been able to make peace with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gift, isn't it? And it's the why, isn't it? It's why you do what you do now. It's why I do what I do now, because those lived experiences has took us on a completely different pathway. And I think I mentioned this in the last episode. We don't want others to have to be at a point of crisis before they make the profound changes that they can make. And I think the story about your boy is fantastic, because you know, who says we can't learn from children? And you know, it's that child's voice in us all, isn't it? You know, and we talked in series 1 around fresh eyes, didn't we? And you know, the power of children. You know, children, we should always give them more credit, because they see the world in such a pure way. You know, and they do, and the way they come at things at times can just, as we do, it takes you by surprise. It knocks you off your stride.
It blew me away. I was like, wow, that's like so profound,
isn't it? You know, and in that moment as well, just in that moment when you needed those words to just give you that little bit of context and direction, and it came at the right time. And you know, and that's why I say, you know, old 13. I mean, happy days. And I mean, I say, and we can learn. And I think having that ability. I mean, I mentioned. You know, to you in terms of around this piece of, you know, the advice that you would have given your friends, had they have experienced your relationship, was probably very different to what you were actually living. And it's the same with me. You know, I always said that, you know, I was the go-to person. Nobody worried about my mental health and well-being. Nobody would have ever thought of the point that I would get to experience suicide. Nobody would have expected that from me. You know, never in a million years. But guess what? Even in my darkest hours, if somebody came my way, a friend of mine, I didn't turn them away. I was that person who was giving a bit of context to their life. And it's like, you know, the mouth was talking, but my own ears weren't listening. You know, the advice I was giving a lot of the time was advice that actually I should have been taking on myself. And, you know, again, it's that ability to listen. You know, I mean, going back to Dancing Queen, you know,
why not?
It's true. No, but it's true. I mean, not that Dancing Queen is a profound song by any stretch of the imagination here, but you know,
it's a classic.
It's a classic. It gets your feet moving, but it certainly isn't profound. But you know, singing Dancing Queen for the 100th time is not going to make an impact on your life. But actually, when you hear a song for the first time, that's when the lyrics actually mean something to you. It's that ability again to listen. There's a song, oh dear me, Before You Go. Is it Calvin Harris, Before You Go? And I never knew. No, but I never knew. I'd heard it before, but I never knew that he'd wrote that song, because one of his friends, but died by suicide. And when you listen to those words and you know the context behind those words, they mean something. They absolutely mean something. And again, it's that ability to really listen, not be on autopilot, a Dancing Queen, not to just allow your brain to race away, but to really slow it down and go, hang on a minute, you know, So even Dancing Queen, Friday nights and the lights are low. Are they low? Are they on? I don't know. You know, have a look. You know, but you know what I mean. It's about that, and it's interesting that a lot of the time when we're in that autopilot mode, we just get on with it. I hate that. Just suck it up, get on with it. No, do the opposite. Challenge it.
That was a very sort of common script, wasn't it, of culture, I think. But getting on with it and sucking it up
actually means shove it down. Debbie, it still
means shove it down. And then if it's shoved down, it's not processed, and to be honest, it will raise its head and it will appear at some point for you to deal with. So it's far better to be processed. I don't think necessarily there was a culture being given those tools, which I guess is where, you know, businesses like you and I's come in, because, you know, we're able to equip people with that ability, aren't we?
Yeah.
And it's so important. So yeah, I mean, you know, and it's, yeah, when we're able to do that, you can move through those situations, you know, far more quickly.
Yeah. Sure. Well, it's and you know, this bit about, you know, we've talked about the link, you know, the importance of connecting with yourself to be the best person for the people around you, the business that you work for, etc. It's interesting. Only the other day I saw, I think it was yesterday on the news. You know, this bit around that, you know, Britain is at the forefront of mental health in the workplace. Don't know about that. The sample size was very, very small. That they take it from, and I think when you start to, and again, when you start to hear these things, you know, whether it be big news articles like that we are actually, it's very easy to say these things. It's very easy for you or me to tell our friends and family how they should behave, how they should, you know, react to certain instances that are going on, because at that point, again, we're not looking at ourselves, we're looking at others. And it's easier to look at others. And actually, the advice we give others tends to be a lot better than a lot of the time the advice we give ourselves. And this comes back to that point of only when we truly start talking to ourselves, really connecting with ourselves, can we really become that person that we wish to become, which is another link to another show that we did. Not so long ago.
Touch on that. It's the importance of doing that, because sometimes people will challenge, oh, isn't that selfish? Well, no, because actually you're setting the standard for other people around you. So for me, it's like, well, actually, I need to be the role model for my son. So if I'm not teaching him to look after myself through example, then why is he going to learn how to do that? And I can see, you know, that he's got he has, I guess, adopted principles that I have had to turn around from my own experience. And I think, oh God, you know, then it's like that sense of fulfillment, because actually he's taken on that strategy as his foundations.
Absolutely.
So it isn't selfish at all, because we've got to be those role models to that next generation, and I think that's really, really important.
The biggest gift that you can give somebody else is to look after yourself. It's true, because if you're not looking after yourself, I mean, when we break it all down, when we break life down, you know, let's make this dead simple. The people that matter the most to you today, wherever you are, who's listening to this, if you ask them what is their biggest wish for you, it probably is that you have a long and happy life. Because if you're, and there will be that part in them that's thinking, and they wish the same for themselves. And if together you have a longer and happy life, then, you know, it allows you to be connected and all the rest. But again, to have that long and happy life, you're going to have to try and look after yourself, mind, body, and soul. Because if you neglect those things, then the thing that person wishes the most for you, you're not going to get. You know, it's as simple as that.
And then there are stats, aren't there, about people who are in their last days, about that would be one of their biggest regrets, is not taking those opportunities. So, you know, it is about embracing the opportunity, I guess, that if we're in those situations where any day, we don't need a situation to look at that, you know, just start now going, actually, let's absorb, this concept of being aware of self, having that self-belief, believing, building that self-esteem, and building our own life in the way that we truly want it to be.
And it can be baby steps. It can be walking to the shops instead of driving to the shops. And then when your brain says, yeah, but your brain says it's raining outside. Yeah, it is. And guess what? You own an umbrella. Get the umbrella up and still walk. Stop trying to take the shortcut.
There's no such thing as bad weather. Only poor choice of clothing, David.
Absolutely. Yeah, wear the right clothes.
My friend taught me.
Absolutely. In terms of your lunch. I mean, I've worked in corporate land. Yes, there's nothing wrong with the odd drive through every now and again, but again, look after yourself. That little treat is a good thing. But if that treat is every single day, it isn't a treat anymore. Actually, it's really harming your health.
Yeah, it becomes disruptive, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. So just simple, this 30 minutes of self-reflection a day. It could be a bath, it could be a walk, it could be whatever it is that you need to go walk the dog, whatever. But by actually doing these little things, a little bit about diet. People always say, why resolutions always don't go right, because we try and become perfect in an instant. I'm going to give up smoking. Okay, that's my last cigarette. Good luck with that. And for every one person that achieves to do that, there'll be thousands that don't. And the law of averages is you are going to fail. Whereas actually, if I'm a 20 a day, well, I'm going to do 19. I'm still going to have me fixed, but it's going to be 19. I'm slowly going to reduce it to the point that now I don't need it anymore. And it's about these things, really, really little things. We've both said this. Analyze your life. What do you wish to become? What direction do you want to go in? And then don't try and do it like that. Set yourself a pathway, a credible pathway to achieve the goal that you wish to achieve. And we've given a few examples of what that could be. Get in touch. We could give you more. But that's another episode. It was worth doing a second one.
It needed it. It warranted it, David, for sure.
Yeah. I enjoyed that. And, on behalf of everybody, I think it's the first time that you've really talked about your own properly, get into some sort of dialogue around your own personal experience. And I think, fantastic to hear about that. And I'm sure people appreciate that. I certainly did. So who knows where next week will go, but it will go somewhere. But Debbie, as always, a pleasure. And thanks everybody for listening.
Bye.
Join us next week for episode 21, Filtering.